Throughout the course of history, we have revered mountains. Our ancestors placed their gods atop their summits and spoke of creatures, both monstrous and magical, that dwelt on hard-to-reach slopes and in the mountain's shadowy, hidden valleys. In this regard, California's Mount Shasta is no different. Some of our First Nations people told tales of their god living and doing battle atop its 14,179-foot peak, and spoke of a race of lizard-like humanoids dwelling in the mountain's interior. What sets Mount Shasta apart is that the mysteries and legends have continued. Even into today, it remains a nexus of strange tales and occurrences. Hello there, friends, and welcome to the Paranatural Podcast. My name is Ben.
And I'm also Ben today.
No, you're Jake.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Either way, we're both glad to have you with us tonight as we take a look at the strange occurrences, mysterious happenings, and just buck wild shit that happens on California's Mount Shasta. Jacob, how the hell you doing tonight, bud?
I'm hella doing good. How are you?
All right, we're doing great. We are doing great.
Who's we?
Me and the mouse in my pocket.
Okay, I was wondering if that was a mouse.
And I'm pretty sure there's a cat in here somewhere.
I think I see some eyeballs back there.
They're doing good. They're fat and happy.
Just like me.
Eating 5 million pounds of food a day. They're pudgy bastards.
I love pudgy animals. Makes them cuter.
All right, bud. I don't think I have anything really business-wise to take care of. How about you?
Yeah. So to the people who listened to last week's episode, thank you for listening and keeping an open mind, because that was just a fun episode.
Good old Mel's Hole.
Yeah.
Gotta love Mel's Hole.
The hairy tail of Mel's Hole. But yeah, so I'm excited to hear your story tonight.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna preface this by saying that when it comes to Mount Shasta weirdness, it really is buck wild. It goes places we have not yet been on this podcast. So we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a big allegedly right here at the beginning of this episode, and then just there's one at the end too, in case I forget to say it. So
I do have to ask, is there I can't remember what it's called, parental advisory?
It's not going to be as juvenile as Mel's Hole, I'll tell you that right now.
Juvenile.
So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through the more common stuff real quick, and then we're going to get into the meaty, juicy parts, and then at the end is my favorite / arguably the weirdest story to come out of Mount Shasta. So if you're ready to talk about some weird shit, bud, I'm ready.
You know I always am. All
right, so let's start off with UFOs. All right, Mount Shasta's got UFOs.
Love UFOs.
So many that according to a 2012 book titled Mount Shasta Sightings, Mount Shasta is number 13 out of 300 for UFO hotspots.
Damn.
I have no idea what the author of that book clarified as UFO hotspot. That's just, it was a quote I found. So there you go. Like I said, we're going to run past this one pretty quick.
Okay.
Sightings range from single lights in the sky to discs to entire fleets of UFOs. And witnesses are as varied as the types of things cited. And they range from your just average person running around to law enforcement to at least one psychotherapist. So there you go. It's not that they're not good stories. It's just Mount Shasta offers much weirder things. So we're going to move on. Another one we're going to mention just kind of quickly is Mount Shasta has Bigfoots.
Love Bigfoots.
They do. They got Bigfoots. But the Mount Shasta Bigfoots, well, they're a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill usual sightings of a Sasquatch. Okay? Most sightings are, you got a Bigfoot, you see him, he grunts at you and walks the fuck away, right? That's what Mount Shasta Bigfoots do, or not. That's what Mount Shasta Bigfoots don't do.
Okay.
Mount Shasta Bigfoots are weird. So there's like one story, which I'll just run through quick. of a couple guys that were on Mount Shasta, and one of the big hairy fellas just kind of walked out of the woods, and he strolled his big stinky ass over to him and handed them a crystal and turned around and walked back in the woods.
Did they keep the crystal?
Apparently, yes. According to the story, yes. They did not, however, specify what kind it was.
Cool.
But that's not the weirdest thing Mount Shasta Bigfoots do.
No.
No. Mount Shasta Sasquatch are said to have supernatural powers.
Oh boy.
Supernatural Shasta Sasquatch, put it on the list. They are said to have cloaking abilities, so they can just disappear and be invisible.
Harry Potter shit.
They use portals. They can just manifest a portal and bip right through that sumbitch. They participate in mind speak, which is a telepathic communication of sorts.
The aliens did something to him, apparently.
Just for the record, Jacob has no idea any of the stuff that I'm talking about. However, what he just said ties directly into the next thing I have written down in my notes, which is Mount Shasta Sasquatch have been seen getting on and off of UFOs.
There we go. Score one, Jake.
So.
Or Ben tonight. I'm going by Ben.
Right. So, just to kind of sum this up, Mount Shasta's Sasquatch community is so known for their supernatural abilities that in 2016, the show Finding Bigfoot did an episode there titled Supernatural Sasquatch. It was, as far as I know, the only time they ever really delved into the more supernatural, paranormal reports of Bigfoot. So, but spoiler alert, they didn't find Bigfoot.
Damn it.
You know what? I love that show, but they never found shit. Another show went to Mount Shasta to investigate the supernatural Sasquatch phenomenon. And that show is titled The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
I love Jeff Goldblum.
Where the titular host journeyed to Mount Shasta. Jesus, I think I had a stroke. I can't talk today.
Hey, is your eye normally like that?
Yeah, right. Anyway, Mr. Goldblum went to Mount Shasta to hunt for Bigfoot with Greg and Dana Newkirk of Hellier fame. I really want to look that episode up and watch it.
Me too.
So, yeah, if Greg and Dana Newkirk show up, it's probably weird. And if Jeff Goldblum shows up, it's definitely fucking weird. So that's Mount Shasta Sasquatch. Now, let's move on to some real weird shit.
Sounds good.
All right. Jacob, does the word Lemuria mean anything to you?
Sounds like a third world country.
Close. All right. For those of you that don't know, Lemuria is a theoretical continent that used to exist between Madagascar and India. And at the time that this was theorized, it was backed up by the actual science of the fact that there are lemurs on Madagascar and lemur fossils in India, but there are none in Africa or in the Middle East, right? So the dude who put this together figured out that there must have been some sort of continent between the two, and he called it Lemuria. So that's the story of Lemuria. But it wasn't just lemurs that lived on Lemuria. There was also a race of advanced humanoids that we have come to call Lemurians.
Oh, God.
We're getting into the advanced civilizations now, but
yeah, I like to hear King Julian is a human.
Right. Only Lemurians are around 7 feet tall because all things paranormal are 7 feet tall for some reason, or many of them.
Yeah.
Bigfoots, Wendigos, they're all 7 feet tall.
Dogman's 7'4".
Yep. They are described as being thin, graceful, ethereal beings. Ooh. They are fair-skinned and have long, luxurious locks. They also have long necks which they adorn with collars made of beads, precious stones, and gold. They wear flowing white robes or tunics and sandals, because Jesus imagery. Unless, that is, they're going about in the nude.
I like the nude.
Apparently, Lemurians like to go about in the nude. I don't know
Love
if
nude.
I don't know if being nude includes the gold and precious stone collars or not, but they say they like to go about in the nude. The Lemurians, as I've mentioned, have advanced technology. Thousands and thousands of years ago, even before the continent sank, they had mastered such things as atomic energy, magnetism, whatever the fuck that is, electronics. So Lemurians had iPads. That's just how I read it. And the ability to alter space-time. They also have levitating airships to get around, which might explain some of the UFO sightings.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to where Mount Shasta is involved in this in just a second.
And the super squatches.
They also have a walnut-sized gland that gives them psychic powers.
I want that gland.
It gives them telepathy, so they can talk to the Bigfoots. Telekinesis, ESP, the ability to appear and disappear at will, and they can do Jedi mind tricks.
ESP.
Or influence minds of others. Yes, ESP. Not ESPN. They can't watch sports with their brain nugget. They can...
Brain nugget. What's ESP?
Extrasensory perception.
Okay.
So like future reading and, things like that. The downside of this walnut-sized gland is that sometimes it sticks out of their forehead. So they got like a little bump.
Damn it.
Now, I bet you're asking, what does this have to do with Mount Shasta? Right?
What does this have to do with Mount Shasta?
Thank you for asking. They came to Mount Shasta for two reasons. One, their continent was sinking, so they needed a new home. And two, they were at war with the Atlanteans.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I know. The reason that they were at war with the Atlanteans is because the Lemurians, their thought process, their way of living, was just to let the less evolved species, read humans, just leave them alone. They just leave them alone. Let them evolve on their own. They'll figure things out. Whereas the Atlanteans were absolute dicks and thought that the less evolved species, aka humans, should be enslaved and controlled and used as labor force. So
those dicks.
I know, the Atlanteans are assholes. So they came to Mount Shasta and built the city of Telos inside, which they light with a mini artificial sun, apparently.
They get all the cool tricks.
Now, the reason that we know any of this at all is it all comes from a book by Frederick S. Oliver titled A Dweller on Two Planets, which was published in the year 1905. And the reason Mr. Oliver knows these things is that in the summer of 1883, Oliver, then a teenager, was helping mark the boundaries of his family's mining claim. His hand began to shake and convulse uncontrollably. It began to write all by itself. Where he got paper and pen, I don't know.
That sounds a lot like Joseph Smith.
Doesn't it, though? Note the earlier Jesus imagery.
Mormons, yeah.
Like I said, folks, put a big allegedly at the beginning and end of this episode. Oliver ran home in a state of panic, his hand writing by itself all the way. When he got home, his mother, being very concerned for her son's well-being, just gave him more paper.
Right, just got it right.
It just got it right. Soon the first outburst subsided, leaving Oliver with the beginning of his book. Now, over the course of the next several years, Oliver's hand would be taken over periodically, compelled to write, instead of, jerk his gherkin like most teenage boys are. In these bouts of automatic writing, which you know what that is, right? It's pretty much just what we just described, but they say it's like a spirit that can come through you and write your book, or write
Yeah.
for you, leave you messages, whatever. He would write a few pages here and there until in 1895 he had completed an entire book. The book, A Dweller on Two Planets, detailed the Lemurian history and told of their underground city.
Their underground city.
Their underground city of Telos, which they built with their advanced technology. Inside, I don't think I mentioned this. Mount Shasta is a volcano. It's a dormant but potentially still active volcano.
Hey, it's got to be one of the two, right?
At least it'll be warm
Yeah.
in their underground city. Oliver went on to claim that he had been chosen, because there's always a chosen one in these things, as the Lemurian secretary, and that the entire book was written telepathically through his automatic writing. Oliver also claimed to have went astrally to the Lemurian city and said it was deep in the mountains. It spread through vast tunnels with hidden automatic doors, elegant architecture, and gold-plated domiciles, luxuriously carpeted in something like fleece. So they like to have nice soft stuff under their feet when they're running around in the nude. The entire city was ornamented with crystals, silver, gold, and precious stones. The city got its power through crystal energy. Yeah, and he spoke of the Lemurians' advanced tech. Oliver saw incredible gadgets and vehicles, including dun 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 cigar-shaped flying craft.
Oh boy.
You know what though? Like, I'm gonna get into this a little bit more in a second here. Well, actually, I guess right now. But a lot of what Oliver described in this book, it's all like, it sounds like a whole lot of bullshit, right? And I'm pretty sure it's a whole lot of bullshit. But like cigar-shaped UFOs were not a fucking thing that anybody talked about in 1890 anything.
Right.
Right? On top of that, he spoke of a lot of other groundbreaking like sci-fi shit. Like, I don't think he called a lot of this by what we call it now, but he did talk about like quantum mechanics. And he wrote about anti-gravity tech and zero-point energy, which he called dark side energy. But it's all stuff we write in sci-fi now, and that some of our science community is actually looking into.
Huh.
So, I mean, it's weird that he like came up with that, but
if he came up with it,
make of that what you will. But yeah, all these were like, it was the first mention of any of this, even in sci-fi. Like, so 1 point to Oliver, I guess.
I mean, one thing I gotta give him is my hand likes to act on its own sometimes, but I end up getting slapped.
Maybe. Nice. Okay, to wrap this part up, Oliver died in 1899 at the age of 33, and his mother got the book published in 1905. It became an instant cult classic, and many New Age belief systems point to it as the source of their belief.
Have you read it?
I have not. Now, since then, there have been tons of reports of Lemurians and their underground civilization, some of which were printed in various newspapers, including in the May 22nd, 1932 edition of the Los Angeles Times. In short, the article is about the account of Edward Lancer, who was on a train and saw Mount Shasta lit up with a reddish-green light. He asked the conductor what was up with that, and was told it was the Lemurians. An explanation that the residents of the area seconded when Mr. Lancer returned to investigate the odd occurrence. So he goes, he sees it. He's like, what the hell's that? Train conductors, well, that's the Lemurians. He's like, what the fuck is that? So he comes back, checks around. He gets told that, yes, that was the Lemurians. And further speaking with the locals, they also told him that the Lemurians were known to come into town from time to time. They would bring their tall, odd-looking, robe-wearing asses down from the mountain in order to buy massive quantities of lard, salt, and sulfur.
See, that sounds like a cult.
One of these things is not like the other. Lard, salt, sulfur.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why they're
Lard.
buying sulfur.
Oh yeah.
And as far as it being a cult thing, that's like one of the things people ask is like, are we sure this isn't just a bunch of hippies living up there in the fucking mountain?
7-foot nude hippies.
I don't know why they'd all be 7 foot tall though. I mean, like 7 foot tall people exist, but anyway. Like I said, this is probably all bullshit, so I don't know, whatever.
Hey.
The Lemurians, when they would come into town to buy their lard, salt, and sulfur, maybe they're frying up sulfur. I don't know, whatever. Oh, that would be dangerous. That would be dangerous. Sulfur's fucking explosive. It's very flammable.
Yeah, imagine the farts it would
I know, it wouldn't smell great either. Goddamn. But anyway, when they would buy it, they would pay for it in gold nuggets. Which, can you imagine being the fucking cashier that has to make change for a gold nugget?
I mean, California, that's not too far-fetched.
Well, you know, back in the day, no. Like, during the gold rush era, it was actually quite common to pay for things in gold nuggets. But the Lemurians never apparently asked for change because the nuggets were always worth far more than the goods they had purchased with them. So at least they're nice about it.
Good tippers.
And apparently they're rich as fuck.
I want to be a Lemurian.
Now, though that report came from 32, but still today, Lemurians are encountered. Locals see them walking down the road, but they disappear after being glimpsed as if they were never there.
Dicks.
Which we already talked about it. Like, they can cloak like the Bigfoots. Because, you know, psychic abilities and stuff.
That gland. Forehead gland.
Yep, forehead gland. Sometimes, though, they don't just disappear. They have been known to give assistance to farmers who have fallen on rough times. They show up and, using their advanced farming techniques, revive the soil as if by magic. Pretty sure that's called fertilizer.
Just give them some gold.
Just give them some gold and shut the fuck up. I don't know why I went Irish on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but
because
we're
talking about pots of gold, aren't we?
I don't know. Do they carry it in a pot?
They might. Do robes have pockets?
Some.
Do tunics have pockets? Where do they put it if they
don't have pockets? Prison pocket.
They're prison pocketing it. Walking into town with a prison pocket full of. Where do they put the sulfur? Maybe that's what the lard's for. They got to lube up the prison first.
Oh, God.
Okay, moving on. Moving on, sort of. I forgot this was the next part. There is also the account of a group of people who were hanging out by a place called Panther Springs. They all saw a Lemurian chick walk out of the woods and lay her ass down in the water, which was described as frigid. She lay there for at least 5 minutes before getting up and walking back into the forest, just dripping freezing water the whole damn time. Which, if you know who Wim Hof is, that's not that fucking impressive. Wim Hof could do it.
I could do it. Northern Michigan.
I don't go my ass in the freezing ass water, bud.
I do when I fall through the ice.
I'm a grizzly bear, not a polar bear. All right, so before we move on to other weirdness, what do you think of the Lemurians, bud?
I want to meet them.
We can go to Mount Shasta.
Yeah, let's do it. And get some gold nuggets from a butt.
My girlfriend knows where it is, and she has been there.
Seriously?
Yes, and I was talking to her about it, and she was telling me that, like, if you go to the town of Mount Shasta or, like, any of the towns around, one of the biggest industries there is the metaphysical. So, like, crystal shops and gem shops and psychics and tarot card readers and people that give, like, ghost tours up in the mountains and shit.
I really want to go.
So, yeah, it sounds like a buck wild place. Too bad it's in California. No offense, California, but, you know.
Yeah, next time you go there, just...
I had kind of a bad time there.
Yeah, don't get your ass burned up again. Just go to Mount Shasta.
California sun is nothing to fuck with.
No.
So, okay. Let's move on. The Lemurian city of Telos isn't the only city to be found inside of Mount Shasta.
To be found?
Oh, yeah. You can find another city in there. Yeah.
Well, let's find it.
All right. In 1904, a British prospector named J.C. Brown arrived in the Mount Shasta area with the Lord Cowsray Mining Company. Probably saying that wrong, but that's what it says.
Sounds right to me.
While exploring the mountain for signs of places to mine for gold, J.C. came across a tunnel. Being a volcano, I'm sure there are lots of tunnels.
Might be.
He decided to check it out and went inside, which I can't blame him. If I see a tunnel, I'm curious enough to go in there too. It might be the not good idea, but I'm probably doing it. What he discovered was that the tunnel went several miles into the mountain. Mr. Brown followed the tunnel all the way into the mountain until it opened up into a complex of rooms. The rooms were full of ornate statues, gold plates, crystals, and shields. He also found an exorbitantly decorated burial chamber. Inside were at least 27 mummies. The mummies were between 6'6" and 10 feet tall.
Holy shit.
I know, damn, that boy big.
Yeah.
Some of them were wrapped in heavily ornamented robes. Yeah. Now, why this story is bullshit? That's what it says in my notes. First off, the dude goes in there and he sees all these crystals and gold plates and everything else, and he brings out fucking nothing. He didn't bring out shit. Not even like, dude, I would have drugged me out a whole ass 10-foot tall mummy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no
I'd have figured it out. Or something, goddamn. At least a mummy finger. I'd have been whipping my mule back down the mountain with a fucking 8-foot mummy finger. Just, yeah!
At least his femur.
Fucking something. But he kept telling people about this place, like trying to drum up attention and shit. He called it one of the most exciting archaeological finds of the century, which I would agree if it was real and he would have drug out a fucking whole ass mummy or something. But in 1934, a man named John C. Root finally took interest and got together 80 dudes to go check it out.
80 dudes.
80 dudes. However, the day they were supposed to go, J.C. Brown's lion ass didn't show up and was never seen or heard from again.
Telepathy. They told him stay away.
You know, okay, I'll buy it. The mummies told him to stay the fuck away. I got it. But yeah, so 3 decades he's trying to drum up attention for this thing, and the day they're actually going to go confirm it, he disappears. What a dick.
What a towel.
So, we've talked about 7-foot Lemurians and 10-foot tall mummies. Now let's talk about some short guys.
Yay.
We got weird short guys on there too. Not only just Bigfoots and Lemurians and tall mummies, but we got short guys. So, okay, I'm going to try this and then I'm going to fuck it up, but it's fine because whatever. The dude calls himself Mahatma Amsumata.
Yeah, that's rough.
Which is just one of those bullshit made up I want to make money and pretend to be a guru names. So his real name is Norman Westfall. And you know what, Norman? There's nothing wrong with being named Norman Westfall. You can be a guru named fucking Norman. All right? Get over it. Anyway, Normie was picnicking with some friends on Mount Shasta, when suddenly they were approached by a quote-unquote tiny dwarf. This vertically challenged fellow offered to bring them some gold. Now, this is just a paranatural PSA, but if supernatural creatures offer you gold, just say no. Nothing bad happens to Normie and company in this story, but I'm just saying the Fae are a thing, and if they offer you stuff, just say no. So anyway, he says, yeah, sure, we'll take your gold. And the dwarf disappears for a little while. And when he comes back, he has a sack of something that looks like coal, because apparently this dwarf is a lion-ass little shit.
Asshole.
The dwarf said that it wasn't coal, it was black diamonds. Which, okay, maybe he's kind of not lying about that, because if you take coal and enough time, heat, and pressure, it becomes a diamond. But he also said that the black diamonds had a secret inside.
Oh.
And I'm going to assume the secret is he's a lying little fuck.
Yeah.
Westfall said that they suddenly realized that this was a dwarf of vast wisdom. I have no idea how you get that from the sack of coal carrying, gold offering little fuck, but he apparently did. So, okay. Strangely enough, other little dwarf fellows appeared. Just poofed out of nowhere. Here they are, little dwarf fellows. They told Norman and co. that they were from the lost continent of Lemuria, which is another lie. We know these guys aren't trustworthy already, but now they're saying they are also Lemurians, but we know Lemurians are 7 foot tall. These guys were tiny, and he doesn't say how tiny, but he reiterates over and over in his account that they were tiny. He uses the word tiny a lot, which means they were either actually really, really tiny, or he's got some sort of like little man syndrome and he was trying to be the big man in this situation for once in his life. I don't know. But anyway, the little fellows started singing.
They do that.
They do. Their voices apparently blended together in what old Norman said was a chorus of beautiful cosmic sounds, which sounds like some hippy dippy bullshit to me, but cool story, bro.
I can feel the acid from that sentence.
Bang, you got that right. Now, while they sang, they worked with, again, tiny anvils and tiny hammers, because, little hands. Then another being appeared, because, there wasn't enough of them yet. But this guy was bigger than the rest. And this guy introduced himself as Pellier, the Lord of Wisdom of Lemuria. Because, he's taller, so he's obviously in charge.
Yeah, that's why I'm in charge.
He went on to say that he was the great dwarf who sits in the center of the 4 corners of the earth. And I have no idea what that means. Nobody explained it. That's just what he said. And that is the end of Normie's story. Any thoughts?
No.
What are you going to think about that, right? Like, dude,
4 corners of the earth.
Yep, he sits in the center of the dwarves that sit at the 4 corners of the earth.
Huh.
I like your assessment. I'm pretty sure that was a hippy dippy acid trip.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't, then those dwarves are dicks, because they offered gold and brought back coal and gave some bullshit lying, not lying answer about it's black diamonds. It's not black diamonds. It's fucking coal.
But at least they sang for him.
And made beautiful cosmic sounds with their voices.
Hallelujah.
Shut up, Norman. Okay, any further thoughts on the dwarf guys?
I want to know how tiny they are.
They were tiny. He said tiny.
All right.
I like to think that they're like a foot tall.
Oof.
Just wee tiny little fucking guys.
I think that would scare me more than the 7 foot tall people.
He also doesn't say what they were making on their anvils.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind
of
like, weird.
Were they just sitting there beating on them like for no goddamn reason? Like, what was it? Norman, you left a lot out of your story here, bud.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting them to grab the black diamonds and pound them to get the secret out.
At least that would have made a good story.
Yeah.
But no,
come on, Norman.
Instead, we just gloss right over that. Norman, get your shit together.
Yeah. What year was this?
That it didn't say. There was no date on
Norman.
that particular account.
Norman Westfall.
Fucking Norman. He's going to email us angry. I hope so, because I got some questions.
He better use his different voice.
Email me. Norman.
Different name.
Paranaturalpodcast@gmail.com.
We call you out.
Fight me, Norman.
Bring your gnome buddies with you.
Yeah, bring your little fellas with you. I want some black diamonds. All right. The next guy's on our list. The Yactavians.
Uh,
Like the Lemurians, they are said to live in tunnels and cities that they built inside Mount Shasta, which is got to be getting pretty fucking crowded by now.
no kidding.
The Octavians are the greatest bell makers in the history of the world, according to themselves.
Bell makers?
Bell makers. I'm not sure if that's what they claim or if that's what somebody else claims, but that is the quote associated with them. Greatest bell makers in the history of the world. Sounds like something they said. It was actually their skills with bell making that, through sound and vibration, allowed them to build their tunnels and cities under Mount Shasta. They also are said to make bells that are invisible unless you are only a few feet away. They put these bells at the entrances to their realm, and when the wind blows across them, they make a sound that is inaudible but unpleasant and drives people away. You're making a face. This is an audio medium. You need to speak.
Inaudible, but unpleasant.
Yes. Now, I do have an explanation for the question that you're hesitating to ask.
Is it the vibrations?
Have you ever heard of infrasound?
I've heard of infrared.
Infrasound, much like so infrared is invisible to the human eye, right?
Right.
Infrasound is inaudible to the human ear. Now, there have actually been studies done on infrasound, which is tones so low we cannot hear them, but they're so deep they're below human hearing. But the studies show that the right pitches of infrasound can actually cause people to have anxiety and feel physically ill. It's a real fucking thing. The military has studied it to see if it's useful as a weapon. Even the fucking Mythbusters tried it out.
So I just have to say this. There's 4 parts of this story so far that is so much like some South Park episodes. Your little gnome guys are the underpants gnomes. Your noise here is the brown noise, makes people shit themselves.
That is part of the infrasound legend, but infrasound in and of itself is real. It is a real phenomenon.
Is there going to be some crab people next?
Negative. I have no crab people.
Okay. So those are the Lemurians.
No, they're tall and angelic and Jesus-like because white folks.
Go white folks.
I'm so tired of 7-foot tall angelic beings in these fucking stories. I swear to God.
Thank God I'm not 8 inches taller, huh? You might not like me anymore.
So, any further thought on the Octavians?
No.
Okay, good, because now we're going to come to my favorite one.
Yay.
And here we go. This particular story actually comes to us from one of David Paulides' Missing 411 books.
Okay.
Now, if you're not familiar with Mr. David Paulides and the Missing 411 series, I'm sure we will get there at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But just suffice it to say that Mr. Paulides goes around collecting very strange missing persons reports. That's enough to say about that. David states in this account that he changed the names and dates to protect the anonymity of the people involved. It's okay. I dig it. And the story itself begins innocently enough with a family camping trip to a popular fly fishing spot on Mount Shasta. So we just got a family fly fishing Mount Shasta. Okay, cool. Among this family was a 3-year-old boy that we will call Jimmy. Most people go with John Doe. I want Jimmy because John Doe just sounds like a grown person. So this is Jimmy Doe.
Jimmy Fawn.
Jimmy Fawn. Now, at 6 p.m., Jimmy's parents suddenly realized that their little boy was missing. According to Jimmy's dad, the boy was there 1 second and gone the next. And that is a direct quote from him. Which, as a parent, I mean, or anybody who's around little kids, stumpy legs can move quicker than you think sometimes. That is just a thing that fucking happens. The family searched the area in a panic but could not find the missing boy. Out of desperation, the father called the local police and the United States Forest Service for help, which is what you would do. Rescuers assembled and combed the area for hours but found no sign of the missing tyke. That is, until 5 hours after he had disappeared when he was found laying down in a bush. The bush was right next to the trail in an area that had been searched previously. And if I read it right, it had been searched, like they'd walked up and down this trail multiple times looking for this kid. The child's condition was described as dazed and semi-conscious. Jimmy's mom and dad chalked this up to exhaustion, but were so grateful to have their child back and unharmed that they thought little else of it. After medical staff cleared the boy, or checked the boy over and cleared him, the family was released to go home. It's a nice story, right? Yeah, it's not over yet. 2 weeks later, Jimmy was at his grandma's house. His grandma Kathy's house.
I'm pretty sure I've heard this story.
You might have. It's a pretty popular one, but I love it. The two were playing when Jimmy looked at her out of nowhere and told her that he didn't like his other Grandma Cappy, which was his nickname for Grandma Kathy. Kathy asked her grandson what he meant, at which point Jimmy began his strange tale. Jimmy told his grandmother that when he was lost in the woods, he had been grabbed by his other Grandma Cappy. He said that she took him to a creepy place, a cave full of spiders, and that there were purses and guns. He said he was scared, so he didn't touch anything, and that his other Grandma Cappy was really a robot. Jimmy said that his other grandma climbed a ladder, and when she did, she looked like a robot. But that the rest of the time, she looked like Grandma Cappy. He said, quote, she had your same hair, your feet, and even your face, end quote. Jimmy also said that there were other robots in the cave, but they didn't move. The fake Grandma Cappy made the boy lay down and looked at his tummy. Then she asked him to poop on what he described as a sticky paper. But he said he couldn't go.
Attaboy.
Deny the poops. If robots ask for your poop, say no. Don't give robot grandmas your poops.
Don't give anyone your poops.
Don't give anyone your poops. Unless it's the doctor. Then maybe.
Hell no. They're going to do weird stuff with it too.
Unless it's an eye doctor. Don't give the eye doctor your poops. Robot Grandma Cappy also told the youngster that he was from outer space and that they, whoever they are, had put him in his mom's tummy. So we got some starseed shit going on here.
Yeah.
Then she took him back to the river and told him to wait under the bush until someone found him. Yeah, that's what happened. After hearing this, Kathy called her son, Jimmy's dad, and berated him for letting her grandson watch inappropriate TV shows. He said he hadn't been and that the youngster had told him the same story. And neither of them could really figure out what the hell he might have been watching on TV anyway that would lead to such a strange and harrowing tale. Now, Kathy said that after this, she could have written it off as the imaginings of a child. Except, about a year before, she had been camping in that same general area. She said that she had awoken one morning face down in the dirt. She had been removed from her tent and her sleeping bag. When she woke, she was violently ill and said that she felt strangely emotionless, and that on the back of her head she had a small puncture wound. She chalked it up to having been bitten by a poisonous spider. Kathy's friend, who had been sleeping in his camper, woke that morning in the same condition and also with a quote-unquote bite on the back of his neck. She says the only strange thing she can remember from the night before is having seen red eyes shining through the trees, which they had thought were deer.
You just don't got red eyes.
Not last time I checked, no. But maybe she's a city slicker and doesn't know that.
Yeah. Puncture from a spider.
I mean, a spider bite is technically
Spiders
a
can-
puncture.
Yeah. Nothing that you're going to feel, though. Unless it's like brown recluse.
Well, I mean, if you get a spider bite, like it can bump up and
It can bump up, but
when you'd feel that.
yeah, but you wouldn't feel a puncture.
If it was a big fucking spider.
Yeah, you got some of those in this story. So I wanted to go back to little Jimmy's story.
All right, go ahead. Let's go.
He said when she was climbing a ladder, she looked like a robot,
Correct.
but they were in a cave.
Correct.
Why do you need a ladder in a cave?
Well, how you gonna get up or down?
Robot powers.
I mean, some caves
Duh.
have drop offs and shit, bud.
I guess so. Imagine how weird that would look, like animatronic doll climbing up a ladder.
Well, like I'm thinking, like when I envision it, right? I envision it like a hologram type deal.
Okay.
Which is why when
Glitchy.
she went up or down the ladder, the light changed,
Okay.
and he could see like her robot form.
Ooh.
Ooh. Now, I'm erring towards the side of bullshit, right? He's a 3-year-old kid.
What?
Yes, but there is one thing that's really weird about this. In 1940, I can't remember the guy's name,
It's a good year.
but he too wrote some things about Mount Shasta and the Lemurians and all that. And one of the things that he wrote about were these things he called Deros, which were defunct Lemurian robots that were said to be evil and caused all the banes of mankind. And they too lived in Mount Shasta because that's where the Lemurians were and built them.
Why are the Lemurians making stuff that are gonna bane us?
That was in 1940. He wrote that in this story, even though David Polite has changed the dates and stuff, everybody attributes it to like 2010.
Yeah.
So to be nice, I mean, that could have been, in a decade or two beforehand, whatever. But still, 1940 to like 1990-ish at the earliest, I would think, that's pretty fucked up that they were both talking about evil robots under Mount Shasta.
Yeah. All right, I just wanted to touch on that.
Anyway, that's all my Mount Shasta stuff, bud.
Mount Shasta, I'm going there.
Mount Shasta's fucking weird, bud.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. It's a wild place.
Yeah, I want to go there. Did it say like robot grandma was the same height as normal grandma?
Yeah, same. She looked exactly the same.
Huh.
But I mean, really though, if you're 3 years old, everybody looks like a fucking giant. So who knows?
Yeah. Huh. Except for the gnome people.
Except for the gnome people. Everybody else on Mount Shasta's tall as fuck.
Yeah.
But not
10
the wise,
foot tall, 7 foot tall.
not the wise lion ass dwarfs. Offer you gold, bring you coal.
And sing of cosmic songs.
Sing beautifully cosmic singing to some guy named Mahatma Antamupadu.
Freaking Norman.
Fucking Norman. Paranatural podcast at gmail.com. Get at me, Normie. Fight
Calling
me.
you out.
Fight me. I mean, at least he had the balls to put his name to his story. I'll give him that.
Both his names.
I mean, all of his names.
Yeah, I'll call out that one guy who just disappeared when he was supposed to be looking.
J.C. Brown, you mother.
Yeah.
He's probably dead though, dude. That was like 1930.
It's Paranatural podcast. We're calling out your ghost.
Yeah, Ouija board at Paranatural Podcast. At me, bro. All right, Jacob, that is all I got for this time. Any final thoughts?
No, that was an awesome story.
All right, then, everybody. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed venturing into the weirdness of Mount Shasta. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Love you guys. Have a spooky night.